Okay, and welcome to Mofo Rc Garage. Today, we're going to be putting together one of these little guys. This is a little mini bouncer kit that I make. It's 3D printed out of ABS plastic. It can be sanded and painted, whichever color you really want to make it. So right now, this one is just done in kind of a red color. This one was a deadbolt is what this one was. It's an scx24. This was the deadbolt frame, or the deadbolt original, the deadbolt scx24. So it has kind of the short links in the front and the nice real long ones in the back. It gives it a pretty good looking stance, I think, from the whole way these ones are set up with the deadbolt links. What I'm doing now, I've painted another little cage orange. And this cage is one of my prototype ones, so it's a little bit different than the new ones. The new ones will have a few more holes up here in the front and in the back, a lot more shock options where you're mounting everything. But I'm going to put this one on another scx24. This was a CRC Jeep Wrangler. This is what this originally was. I think I've got the body somewhere around here. Here it is. It's one of these little ones here. So what you'll do basically is just take apart, basically take the body off and then take the frame off, take off the little battery tray, the electronics tray. You kind of just take the whole thing apart minus this. Now this you can leave together. You can leave together the lower links on the skid plate. You can leave the motor and transmission on. You can leave the wheels on. You don't have to take the wheels off or anything to do this. There's not really a whole lot you have to do when building this. You will most likely need to, or you probably will need to use a little razor blade or something and just cut the little tabs off that were right here so that they can mount flush on the new chassis it's going to go on. You can use a razor blade, or you can use a file or a Dremel, or take your pick of how you want to take those off. Once you get that done, you get those off. These axles are just kind of going to flop around because the upper links aren't connected. It's not a real big deal. When you put the cage on, you can put these back in where they go, and then it won't flop around anymore. What you'll have to do, though, is you'll have to put the drive shafts back in as you're putting the links on. And what you'll want to do is you're going to want to index these to keep from any sort of vibration happening. So you can kind of see there where there's a part of the tube that has the little fork sticking out of it here. And so you'll want that fork sticking out. And when you connect it into the back, you want the same thing on the back. You want the fork sticking out just like that. So when you put it together, it'll be just like one big fork looking thing there. Both those ends will line up together, and that will keep it from creating any sort of vibration in the drive line. So kind of keep that in mind when you're doing that. This was, like I said, it was a CRC Jeep scx24. But what I did do is I had an extra set of the deadbolt rear links. And I installed the deadbolt rear links on the back of it to give it a little bit longer wheelbase, even than the deadbolt or the other ones. You probably won't be able to tell right now because it's not up in the air and connected, but let's see if I can move that a little bit here. So if they're lined up, you can see I got about an extra ½ inch of wheelbase out of this one just by using those rear deadbolt links instead of the CRC Jeep links that came in the back. You'll have to use the drive shaft from the deadbolt as well to do that. Get that little link out of there. There we go. Okay. So first what you do is just start with one of these plates. You're going to need, some sort of a decent driver so you don't strip these tiny little screws out. All these screws came from the original Jeep. When you take the whole thing apart, you'll be left with a big pile of screws. And so all you really need to do, take all those little tiny screws out, just set them aside and save them so that when you put this all back together, gosh, popular today. So when you put it all back together, you'll end up not needing to, try and scavenge for screws anywhere. Definitely you could buy more screws like this, but the longer ones, because these are pretty short and they don't really thread into a whole lot when they're in there. So you could get a package of the longer ones if you want and make it a little more secure in some spots. That's definitely an option. It would probably be a good option, but for putting these together, you don't need to do that. So first I'll just kind of set it to the side and put one of the side plates on. And this is where you're going to have to put the links and all the stuff back in. This is like the trickiest part here, probably. All of this stuff is going to have to be lined up when you put it together. So what you can do for the front link before you put that cage on, to keep that drive shaft from popping out, you can put that front link on since it's a dual like that, and just slide the screw in on this end to keep it from falling out all the time while you're putting the cage on the other side. There. And I'll do the same thing for the back as well. Just put one of the links on to keep it from falling out all the time. These upper links up here. Make sure that drive shaft is indexed. Okay. Now we'll go to the opposite side where we didn't put the screws in. What I've done with this motor wire, it normally, I think it just kind of goes around to the side. I just slid it right underneath the motor here, just to keep it out of the way of everything. Okay, line these little guys back up, mostly. Take your two long screws. And these holes are pretty rough because they're so small. So you may need to use the driver to kind of get them started in there. Right now it's kind of goofy looking, kind of looks like a little 2D thing. It'll start to take shape once you get more of the pieces on. And you can paint the inside of it too. I just don't really worry about it. You can paint the inside of the cage if you want. This is what they look like normally. They're just black. That is not going in. There we go. And I don't even hold the driver by the handle. I just hold it by the actual driver part here, because these screws are so small. If you crank these things down, you're going to strip out whatever you're cranking them into. So I would definitely suggest not cranking it from here. And we'll kind of do the same thing on the other side here. Well, actually, you know what? Let's put the top on first and the little side braces. So we'll put this top piece in. And then I'll probably go ahead and put the battery tray in, the electronics tray, the little front and rear braces, and then bolt the other side of the cage on. That way, it's just a little easier, a little bit less work trying to squeeze it all inside there to do everything. So the battery tray for this is actually just a stock battery tray that comes out of the car. So you'll use the stock battery tray. The stock ESC tray, you can just kind of set off to the side, which is this thing. You don't need the stock ESC tray right now anymore. That we don't need any front shock towers on it because everything has the shock towers on here now. And this is going to mount very similar to how it mounted before. There is a little hole here for the bottom part of the battery tray. So you can kind of see. And then there's one more hole at the back for the back of the battery tray. And most of these holes that go through the cage and then thread into something else are all countersunk. So you kind of know where they're supposed to go. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, but like you see these little holes here, these are for the shocks, the little tiny ones, and then there's a bigger ones here and here, and like that one's bigger. The countersunk holes would be for where the screw placements go in and they thread into something else. Okay, here's the new electronics tray. And this is actually the bottom of it right here. This is going to be the top. I was going to paint this thing blue and then decided to do orange. So I got a little overspray on there, but that's going to be covered up by the electronics, by the ESC. And same thing in the front. You got two little holes here where these go in. Snug that one up. This driver is so good it gets stuck in them. Okay, I got the electronics tray in there. Moving right along. Just kind of move that servo wire out of the way a little. I'm going to go ahead and mount the electronic, or the actual ESC now. The ESC is going to be mounted forward like that to where the lettering on it here is going to be facing right here towards the motor and everything. And you got a little plug here for the motor or the battery. We're going to plug the motor wire into the motor plug. And I've already got some double-sided tape on here on the bottom of this ESC. If you don't have any double-sided tape, if you're very careful, when you remove this, you can reuse the double-sided tape it comes with if you're very careful with it. I'm going to try to get that in there as tight to the transmission as I can because the front clearance is really close. And you can see the on-off switch there. It's almost not accessible, so I would just say when you want to turn it off, unplug the battery, which is a smart thing to do anyways, because you really don't want to leave your LiPo batteries inside your RC cars for any period of time, just in case something does go wrong. So with that done, suppose I could probably go ahead and screw the shocks on now on this side and the two little braces. So with the new wheelbase, I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to be screwing the shocks on yet. I'll probably screw them to the very far end point here because these things are so far back. If I put them way up here in the front, it might be kind of loose. And on the front shock, I'll probably go with the I might go with the third hole or second or third hole back there. I guess the second hole probably. But this little brace here, I'm going to go ahead and install as well. It's going to go right up here at the top in front of the ESC. Now what you want to do before you put that on there is plug your steering servo in. If you don't plug that in now, you'll have to take that little brace back off to plug it in later. Like I said, this is very close tolerances on everything. Okay, put this shock on now. And these holes are pretty tight, so I'm going to use the handle here. But just be very careful if you use the actual handle on these things. You don't want to strip any of this stuff out. And in the back, what I'm going to do I'm going to put the shock where the brace mounts on the back. So the brace goes at the very farthest point here in the back. I'm going to screw the shock right through that into the brace. And unless you have a deadbolt rear links on yours, you probably won't need to do this. But if you have the deadbolt rear links, you'll probably have to put it to the very back hole. And like I said before, don't over tighten anything. This is all very thin plastic. Now going to the other side, I'm going to go ahead and kind of tuck that antenna wire in here a little bit so it's not flopping around. And I'll have to pull out these link screws that I put in earlier to hold the links in while I put it together. I'm just going to start with the back one here. Not for any particular reason, but just to start somewhere. I'll have to line that link back up. And now I'm going to move this out of the way so I can take out the front link screw before I tighten both of them up. So about these kits, aside from being one of the few kits that are made like this is probably the only kit that is a very simple direct bolt-in like this. A lot of the other little bouncer cages that people make are set up as a whole tubular cage, and then you kind of have to figure out where you're going to put all your electronics and how you're going to fit everything in there. This was just basically designed for super easy use. You don't have to do any guesswork of what you're doing, how you're going to install anything, where stuff's going to go. You just kind of pull your other car apart, put the chassis in and on, and put it together. Real simple. And these are shipped in the US $35 for the whole kit. which comes with just the little plastic pieces you saw laying here earlier before I started putting it all together. Okay. Screw in the front electronics tray. I keep missing the hole. There it is. I'm sorry, this kind of keeps going in and out of blurriness here. I probably need to find a better spot to mount my camera. And like I was saying about that ESC, you really want to push that back as far as you can. I might have to see if I can peel that back off and shove it back a little further. There we go. That's better. Push these wires out of the way. I went with this orange color on this one. I was going to do kind of a sky blue. Then I decided I really wanted to do orange. The only orange I had was like an anodized orange. I didn't realize that. And I found one can of orange I had somewhere here and just barely had enough orange. You can see this one's kind of, you can kind of see some black specks through it because the paint didn't quite have enough in the can. I ran out about 3/4 of the way through and had to make do with what was left in it. Okay. Should line up that little battery tray. There it is. Oh, what am I doing? Putting the screw in the wrong hole. There you go. These little tiny screws can be kind of tough to get in the right spots in there. Just take your time. Eventually, they will go where they're supposed to. Hopefully. There it goes. I'm thinking about making some tiny little trailing arms for these, kind of like the bomber or the Yeti or the Rock Ray or any of those have. I'm thinking about doing some little trailing arms. I think that'd be kind of cool looking on here, you know, and then you can maybe mount. And the other cages have more screw mounting holes in here, so it'd be kind of cool to have a little tiny trailing arm down here with the shock running into it. Be a little more realistic kind of compared to what they are. If I do, I'll probably just, oh, I don't know, maybe send out the little trailing arms with the kit that I sell here. And then you can decide if you want to use them or not. Of course, at that point, it'd probably have to be the deadbolt upper links is what you'd need to use, because trailing arms are kind of known to be a lot longer than most of the other links on cars whenever they make them like that. And it wouldn't really be worth making a something like that with just with trailing arms that were real short. Well, that's it. That's installed on it and ready to go now. You can kind of see here, got a little flexing going here. And so for the battery, what I'll do is I'll just get the battery strap where I want it before I put it in, before I put the tray in. And then you can just slide the battery in there with a little bit of tension, and it'll hold it all in there. Tuck that little wire out of the way, give it some better looks here. Plug her in, and let's see if I can figure out where I put the remote. Okay, it's probably one of these three. So bright in here, I can't tell which way the on switch is on, if the light's on or not. Oh, there's the on switch right there. Gosh, silly me. That's not it either. Third time's a charm, right? Or is this the same one that I just set down? Oh, I hear something. See if we can climb the 6x6 with it. You gotta bounce it up it, right? So there it is. This is the little mini bouncer here from Mofo Rc. And it's just a little kit you put together yourself. It's real simple, real easy to do. You have all sorts of different options for colors. Whatever color you want to paint it, you can paint it. Different wheels, tires, everything fits on it. Sits real well. Nice suspension on them. Great little kit. This is another one I'm working on right here. This is a 6x6 kit I'm working on, which will come with this little rail here. This is probably real hard to see. Let's see if I can get closer in here. There's a whole side rail here that connects it on each side, and then again, little cross brace here. A little bed that goes in here with the up roll bar on there. And then I just mounted a screw through it and put the little spare tire right on the back there. But this is kind of like kind of like the little bouncer kit. It's all pretty much just plug and play stuff. You know, there's nothing really huge modifications you need to do. The body still hinges just like on the normal cars. And if you do the C10, which is what this is designed for, it will come with the little plate here to cover up the body when you shut it, so you don't see the big holes going into it, as well as this bed. Everything from here forward is all stock. This stuff is all just basically the 67 C10 kit, and then you just need basically one donor vehicle, or you could buy the parts separately if you wanted. The two things you'd really need is going to be the transmission and the skid plate from one of these, because that is just a stock skid plate, transmission, and motor right there at the back. And then you'll need also one rear axle, and then one front drive shaft. I believe that's the front from the deadbolt, the little tiny, teeny tiny one, the front deadbolt drive shaft. That will go on there. Everything else is included with the kit. Even the rear links here are going to be included. This I'm not real sure price-wise yet what it's going to be. I haven't had a whole lot of time to test it, as I actually just finished it this morning. So, you know, look forward to future videos, me playing with it, things like that. That's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.